Hi, welcome to Simple Shifts, conversations on food, life, weight, and mindset. I'm Martha McKinnon from the blog Simple Nourished Living, and this is Peter Morrison, my partner in crime. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good, 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 good. So we have
Good.
a title for our podcast now.
We do.
That that's exciting, right?
Yes, it helps provide a little direction and gives a little foundation and what's the
Yeah,
word
so
I'm
it
looking
helps
for?
people understand what we're all about here, what we're focusing on. And
Right.
we're big advocates of the fact that this journey that we're on through life is all about simple shifts and tiny changes and not really overwhelming ourselves by trying to totally remake
Do too
ourselves
much too
overnight.
soon, do too
Right.
much at one time.
Because we've tried that, right? For like years. And it
Everybody
didn't,
does,
right?
yeah.
Everybody does. Like the New Year's resolution thing, right? We've all talked about that. I'm never eating sugar again. I'm going to the gym every day. We make these grandiose
Plans.
resolutions to like totally redo our lives, overnight, and it doesn't work because it just goes against human behavior. We're working against ourselves. So I'm really excited to share and explore about how we can work with ourselves in a way that feels easy and attractive and satisfying, because it can be, the journey can be much more satisfying when we understand how to go about it. So simple shifts, here we are.
I like it.
Good, 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 good. So our topic for today is a big one because it comes up again and again on our website, and it's all about how to eat, how to cook when, for one or two, because many of us are a small family of one or two, and it's tricky. It can be tricky because a lot of food is designed, a lot of recipes are designed for, 6, 8 servings. So that's a topic that comes up again and again. But before we dive in, what's new? What's good in your world?
Um, well, it sort of fits with this topic. I found at the store the other day, I found up and picked up a package of cookie mix. It's a swerve,
Okay.
the sweeteners. Think it's allulose.
Okay.
Um, but Swerve put out a package of Monster cookie mix,
Ooh.
which I picked up, and I hope to do a little product review and get those baked and up on the website. But
That's
it
fun.
it's it makes 15 cookies, so it's kind of a lot for two people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not 24 or 36 or 48 like a many recipes would be, and you can also share them. So had everything in the package. You just needed to add. You need to add, what is it? An egg, a little bit of milk, and some peanut butter, I believe.
Okay. Well, that sounds yummy. Were they good?
Haven't made them yet,
Oh, yeah.
so
Okay. You haven't made them. All right. So we'll
just
hear about
picked up
that.
the package, but it jumped
Okay.
off the shelf at me, and
Yeah.
I love baking from scratch, but especially for families of two like
Right.
myself with no
Right.
kids, sometimes a healthier mix, a lighter mix that just makes a smaller amount
Right.
fits the bill.
Right. Absolutely. And so the small batch baking is a good topic, and it fits right in with this. So what are some of the other ways that you satisfy like a sweet craving with smaller portions and smaller recipes? What are some of the recipes on our site that have done really well and around that?
The Snickers mini tarts.
Okay.
I made something similar, buffalo bites for a gathering, and
Mm-hmm.
something about the easy to eat finger food
Mm-hmm.
is appealing. And for the Snickers mini tarts, all you do is essentially you cut up a Snickers bar into bite-sized pieces, add
Mm-hmm.
it to the mini phyllo dough hard
Mm-hmm.
crunchy shells, and I think those were topped with maybe you added some additional peanuts.
Okay. Yep.
and just heat them in the. You could heat them in the toaster oven. Actually, you don't
Right.
even
Or the
need to
air
heat
fryer, toaster oven. You don't even have to
air.
turn on your whole oven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could do, I mean, the cool thing about that is if you just have the tiny Snickers bars,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could just make a few, two or three of
Exactly.
them. Yeah, which is nice. So that's a nice little sweet treat. The mug cakes are pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like the whole 3-2-1 mug cake, and that uses the two cake mixes, the angel food cake and the cake mix, so you can do different flavors. And you mix together, so you have a huge amount of the mix once you mix those two cake mixes together, and then you just have to add some water and put it in a mug in the microwave for a minute, maybe a little longer, depending on the power of your microwave. And cake, which is always nice because, big cakes can be dangerous, right, for one or two,
Sure. So
unless you
you
want
you
to.
mix up the two mixes and then you just store the dry mix in
Right.
like a
So
okay.
you mix the two cake mixes together, the angel food, and you need the angel food cake that just requires you to add water. And that's sort of, I think it's, Betty Crocker is the one that I see most often. And then I use devil's food, but any flavor cake mix that you like, you mix the two mixes together and then you just store it in a big Ziploc bag or any type of airtight container. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's called 3-2-1. So it's 3 tablespoons of that mix, 2 tablespoons of water stirred together in a mug that you then microwave typically for a minute, and again, you might have to adjust that. And then you just let it rest, for a little bit until it cools off so you don't burn your mouth. And you have cake that, can satisfy that craving for cake when you don't want to bake a whole recipe's worth. So that's a good dessert. Do you
Have
have
you by
other?
chance tried that in the air fryer yet to cook that?
I have not tried it in
Me
the air
either.
fryer.
Might be
No.
worth a little experiment.
It might be worth it, or toaster oven. It's probably going to take as long as a muffin would take to cook, right? So
That's true.
probably 12 or 15 minutes. Would have to play with it, like in a toaster oven. But if you didn't want to use a microwave, it'd be interesting to see how the texture,
Hmm.
changes. What are some other ways that you satisfy the craving for something sweet for
Well, we
only one or
also
two
have
people?
a recipe for small batch chocolate chip cookies. I
Yeah.
think the original recipe was called tablespoon because it uses a lot of tablespoon measurements. And
Mm-hmm.
then as you're dropping the cookie dough on the cookie sheet, you just use a tablespoon of batter. So, and I don't remember exactly. I think it made 12 or 15,
Yeah,
10
so
or
small
12
batches are
cookies.
good. And oftentimes, recipes for cookies and things can be divided in half.
Hmm.
But it takes some kitchen math to do that. So we do have, and we will link out in the show notes to a lot of the recipes that exist already for one or two to help the readers here.
I think the frozen Cool Whip banana split is a good one
Absolutely. And
for
that's so
the
funny how that came
ice
into
cream
my,
craving.
right? If you're craving ice cream and you don't have any, there are a lot of lower calorie ice creams available now too, Halo Top and things like that. But yeah, this was a recipe that I actually learned of, and it was an interview. I don't know, I can't even remember, but it was Oprah and Tina Fey, and Tina Fey revealed that at one time she went to Weight Watchers. She was a long time Weight Watcher, and this was one of the recipes that has stood the test of time for her. It was a few years ago. And basically, she just would take a little bit of Cool Whip from the freezer, which has a really soft, almost like soft serve kind of consistency, and then add strawberries and bananas and just a little drizzle of chocolate syrup. And she called it her faux banana
Mm.
split. So really, really tasty. And again, you can single serve, which is nice. Yeah. So probably need to move on from sweet treats because it
Sweet.
feels like we can always figure that out somehow, right? So, other ideas for cooking for one and two. What's your approach? I mean, you're a family of two.
Well, we don't. I don't mind leftovers. I
Mhm.
actually kind of like leftovers.
Yeah.
So because I like repurposing leftovers, I always like to try to make them different than the original meal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that would be really encouraging for people, especially if you don't love to cook, right? The fact that, like, leftovers can be a really nice thing. You don't have to necessarily eat them the same way, although sometimes I don't even mind that, you know.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
made, yeah, I remade one of our recipes last night, like an old one from the archives, and for like the chicken broccoli casserole, which I just love. And it came out so good. It's basically just chicken and cooked broccoli and a lighter cream of chicken soup, a little milk, just a little bit of lemon juice, all stirred together, put into a pan, and then topped with a little bit of shredded cheese, and then breadcrumbs mixed with a little Parmesan sprinkled on top. And I used the panko instead of the regular breadcrumbs. And I did bake it on the bake setting in the air fryer. And it came
Oh,
out so, I mean, really, the top was really, really crispy. And, you know, Rod and I both enjoyed it very much on the first night. And we had it again last night. And it was, you know, we just warmed it in the microwave and it still was good and yummy. And so like you, I'm a fan of leftovers. I don't, and again, you wouldn't have to eat it 2 nights in a row. You know, it would stay in the fridge for a few days. I mean, it's something also that you could freeze, right? And then pull
hmm.
out to frost and then rewarm on a time in a time when you just didn't want to have the energy to cook. So that was that was really fun for us. And yeah, talk to us more about the whole repurposing leftovers. That's one thing I'm trying to include now more in our weekly meal plans when I put those out on Friday. When we do share a recipe that makes multiple servings, I'm including ideas for how to, you know, change it up, you know, mix it up in ways that you might not think of immediately, just to help people, again, who are cooking for one or two to have to cook once and then, you know, eat 2 or 3 times, which I think is wonderful if you don't like to spend lots of time in the kitchen.
I agree.
Yeah. So, other things that you do, like examples of foods that you've repurposed successfully?
Ooh. Well, everything. I mean, I like you, we're soup lovers, so
Uh-huh.
a lot of different recipes and meals can be turned into soup. You could make
Yep.
lasagna soup with leftover lasagna.
Yep.
You could use veggie broth.
So,
You
a
know,
lot of foods, when you start to think about how they could be turned into a soup, right? Like we have like a cabbage roll casserole that you cook in the slow cooker on the website, and that could easily, the leftovers could easily be turned into like a cabbage roll soup. We have, like, you know, lots of examples of recipes that we'll share. Again, we'll put some more ideas in our show notes. What are
hmm.
other things that you do that are really great for one or two?
For well, if you have a pizza craving, really,
Mm-hmm.
really like English muffin pizzas,
Yep.
or I actually might prefer tortilla pizzas, and I there's a recipe for it's not really a recipe, but pita
Uh-huh.
pizzas,
Right.
and you
So,
I was really happy with this because you could use one pita bread and make the pizza, but I cut the pita in half
okay.
lengthwise, not in half like a cross, but so you've had like two whole pitas, but they were just half of the pita, very thin,
Right.
with a little pizza sauce or marinara. Then I think I put turkey pepperoni on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just so crispy and so light, but because I prefer
Thin crust, extra thin
thin
crust
crust
pizza.
pizza. That's
Mm-hmm.
so I like English muffin pizzas, but sometimes I just
Mm-hmm.
prefer either a low carb tortilla or the pita bread. I really like the crispy pita bread pizza.
Yeah. So, and naan is another bread,
Naan.
the
Hmm.
small mini naan. So, a lot of ways to make little pizzas for yourself that are pretty easy. And again, you can top those in a multitude of ways depending on what you like. I'm a big fan of like the barbecued chicken pizza, and I often have leftover, you know, cooked chicken and with a little bit of barbecue sauce, a little cheese, some mushrooms, you know, bell pepper can be really yummy. Of course, you can go with the traditional tomato sauce, pesto sauce. So many things you can do with with those tortillas, like you said, or pitas or English muffins to make yourself a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Potatoes is another thing that we like is just to bake a potato. I mean, if you plan ahead, of course you can do it in the toaster oven, air fryer, which will take anywhere from a half hour to an hour depending on your potato, or you can of course just microwave it in, 5 minutes or so. And again, there's all different ways you can top a potato from, yogurt. You could use Greek yogurt and a little cheese, a little bacon bits. I love chili, and if I have leftover chili around, that's a great way to again repurpose the chili and give it a different, just a totally different feel.
I've always loved broccoli cheese potatoes.
Right, broccoli cheese, and you can buy the frozen. Often you'll find like broccoli and cheese sauce right in the frozen food section if you don't want to make your own broccoli cheese sauce. Absolutely, broccoli cheese is another good one. Yep. Tuna. Tuna can be good. Cottage cheese. Another one I learned way back in the Weight Watchers days was cottage cheese and salsa, again, for some good protein. So lots you can do with a baked potato when you're one person. Sandwiches, as the older we
Wraps.
get, the less, and because sometimes we'll go out for lunch and things. So by dinner, we just don't need something, very substantial, or sandwiches can be very substantial. And so I love, and again, they can be, open face sandwiches or traditional sandwiches, paninis, grilled cheese. There's just a lot you can do to make interesting sandwiches for one or two. And we've got, again, several recipes on our website that we can link out to in the notes.
And if you're keeping it lower carb or less bread, lavash wraps make wonderful
Wraps, right? Another
wraps.
form of sandwich, right? Absolutely. You can use like low carb tortillas. You can use lavash to make a wrap instead of using bread. What else comes to mind? I mean, the frozen meals. I mean, there's a lot of better frozen meals that are out there too, and they can work for one or when you're eating for one or two. You just have to try out what works for you. It may take some hit or miss in terms of my Rod still loves like Stouffer's. I don't know if it's turkey tetrazzini or chicken tetrazzini. I mean, he's been eating that for goodness knows how long, and it's something that he's really happy. Like if on a night where we just don't really want to cook, to make that, and all I have to do is then make a salad to go with it. So we have that once in a while when you just don't feel like cooking. It's good to have a few of those in the freezer to pull out. Eggs.
Eggs. I was just thinking eggs in the microwave. It's a
Right.
simple.
Eggs in the microwave is a mug, or like just a simple, it's one pan, like in an omelets, frittatas. There's a lot of things you can do with eggs, to
You could
serve over
just
to.
hard boil 6 or 8 and have them in the fridge ready to go.
Right, right.
Good,
To
make
make a
good
simple
toast
egg salad.
toppings.
Lots of things, lots of ways to top toast, right? Like for open faced. The other thing I like to have around too is just like frozen veggie patties.
Okay.
So, and you have to find again the veggie pat. There's so many choices, but find a veggie patty that you really like, and that again you can warm on the stove top or in the toaster oven. And I like those on a light English muffin with lettuce, tomato, avocado. I mean, that can be a really delicious meal. And if you're feeling really hungry, you can again make a little salad on the side or a cup of soup. There are lots of good soups out there, both on the shelves and if you have leftover homemade soup, that makes a great meal. Anything else comes to mind? I mean, I think we've given a lot of ideas here.
Let's see if I could pull up.
Yeah, we've got a few posts that we'll link out into in the show notes as well, where we explore and have sort of consolidated recipes that work for one or two.
Oh,
One that
your apple pancake puff.
Yep.
Microwave.
Right. And so microwave
Yeah.
these little dishes that you can make in the microwave can be fun because that's just a handful of ingredients cooked together. Makes a nice meal. Cereal sometimes, every once in a while, especially in the colder months, cereal it's a good reset for me sometimes too. Just to opt for cereal with fruit and milk for an evening meal or for lunch. All right. So we'd love for our readers to share other ideas that they have for coming up with meals for one or two. I mean, the other thing I was just going to say, another one that I really love that's so simple. It's a slow cooker recipe, and it's just a bag of frozen Asian style vegetables with a couple of frozen salmon fillets, and then there's a simple sauce that you make using soy and lemon, something else. And so it's we'll link to it on the website that you just pour over it. And again, it doesn't take that long. It's like, I think 2 to 3 hours. And you want to, excuse me, in the slow cooker, in the 2-quart slow cooker. And that, every time I make it, we really enjoy it. So super simple. So tiny crock pot, 2 to 3 quart can be a good investment when you're looking to make smaller quantities because many recipes can just be divided in half. Many slow cooker recipes and cooked in a smaller slow cooker if you don't want the leftovers. So that's another good
Do you
strategy.
think that that recipe that you just described would work with chicken tenders or chicken
Sure,
breasts?
absolutely. I think absolutely. If you didn't want to use and I'll try that because we really do enjoy it. So I will try it with chicken, and that'll give us another alternative. Absolutely. Probably shrimp too. Although the
Hmm.
shrimp you might have to add in a little later because they might cook really fast. So we could just do this all day, right? Just kind of
Right.
riff on ideas. But we'd love for you guys to share in your show notes if you have thoughts and ideas for ways that you cook and or eat. Or we talk a lot about sort of assembling meals where you have just a few different ingredients in your fridge and then you just assemble them in different ways in different bowls and things. So prepping a few foods ahead, like if you have some cooked quinoa, cooked rice, right, left over in the fridge, and you have some leftover protein in your fridge, and maybe on the weekend you maybe cook up, roast a tray of vegetables, suddenly now you've got these components that you can put together in a variety of ways that make dinner like in minutes, which can be a fun strategy too. Any other thoughts?
No, my mind's going blank at the moment.
Well, I think we've given a lot of good ideas. So, all right. So I think it's time for a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And if you like what we're doing here, we would love to have you subscribe and or please get the word out, share us with other friends, family who you think would enjoy these conversations. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll be back soon.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.